And they're back. And they're the same crew who gave us WTO, gave us PNTR with China, gave us NAFTA. The same crew. And they speak the same language as what we've seen over the last 8 years with the Bush administration. There's very little that's changed in terms of the language. If you listen to the speeches by our USTR, United States Trade Representative, Ron Kirk, if you go through his speeches and you were to write out his name on the top, and if you were to take a speech by previous USTRs like Susan Schwab or Rob Portman, and you would write out the names and then just compare speeches, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between who's talking, which administration is talking. The Office of Industrial Policy at the DoD puts out this annual report, and they're tasked with following what's happening with the foreign sources of supply and the health of the U.S. industrial base, defense industrial base, and its impact on the military. So they put out this annual report, Foreign Sources of Supply, and one just came out in October, and I'm looking at it. And I'm thinking, this is kind of like what I read last year. And so I downloaded it and I printed it off, and then I printed off last year's report, and then I printed off reports to 2004, because it's an annual report. And the report this year is exactly the same report, except the date has changed and a few numbers have changed. And then I found that there was one paragraph at about page 8 where they took out like 2 sentences. Otherwise, you print it out, and I was comparing them and saying, oh, it ends on the same line as the page. And, oh, it ends a little higher, you know, so where are they changing? So we have a situation where I feel like we've had 8 years of hardship in the manufacturing. In the economy, we've had 8 years of hardship in our economy. And the way to solve those problems, this is the way the majority of people think who don't produce a product, and economists especially, who produce a lot of hot air. The way to solve the problem is to stimulate demand. Americans, you just got to give Americans more money. We heard it last night. Obama saying we put more money in the pockets of Americans, middle class Americans. Sure, you put like $18 in their pocket. So what we've had is basically 8 years of our government trying to stimulate our economy. And all the while we've gone deeper and deeper into debt. So we had the first 2 tax cuts. The first one was because there was a stimulus, and George W. Bush wanted to keep the money back. They shouldn't be paying taxes and creating the surplus, so Americans deserve their money back. Then the economy was still lame, weak. He said we need another tax cut to stimulate the economy. That's another $1 trillion tax cut, put more money in people's pockets. We had another one in 2008. I don't know if you remember this. You do probably, because most of you are probably going to check. Let's see, it was called the 2008 Economic Stimulus Act. That was $156 billion. And that was a direct check from the IRS. Everyone who's a single filer got a $600 check. Filing jointly, you got a check for $1,200. I got a check for $1,200. That $156 billion was going to stimulate the economy. We had, in 2004, there was the American Jobs Creation Act. And this was to have companies repatriate their profits. To bring them back at a very low, discounted tax rate. And the whole idea was it was going to create jobs, the American Jobs Creation Act. Well, it didn't create any jobs. Then, over the last 8 years, we've had these incredible stimulus in our economy through war spending. Tremendous stimulus. It's always been considered a stimulus. And when you're fighting a war in a desert environment, everything kind of like gets ruined quickly. Sand just ruins stuff. And so we've had our industrial community making armaments and making tread tracks or tires, whatever for our military industrial complex. It's been keeping busy. I've had people in the manufacturing community say, when the war's end, look out, look out. That's a major blow to middle America. Then we had low or no interest rates. We had people borrowing money to buy everything in the world. So we've had 8 years of this. Now we have the Democrats. Okay, now the Democrats, we're going to solve this problem. We're going to spend money. It's the same coin. It's the same side of the same coin. Put money in people's pockets. Let them spend it. It's a demand. Let's create demand. They've completely ignored the fact that by giving money to people to spend on whatever they're spending it on, generally most everything we're buying now is produced offshore. All we're doing is stimulating somebody else's economy. Because our trade policies have been asinine. And because we've fallen into this belief that there is free trade and everybody trades on an equal basis, which is total BS. So it's been disproven 1,000 million times, but we have these classical economists, neoclassical economists is what they're called. Greg Cassidy, who's the economist, NIST, calls them the apostles of denial. And I interviewed him just a few days ago, and I said, why are there so many apostles of denial? He said, well, there are very few like me who kind of cover this from the economic side, who are engaged in innovation and manufacturing, because it works with the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's the only agency that actually works with industry, and is chartered to work with industry. And he said most economists in the government work for either the Fed. He said they have hundreds of economists at the Fed, and they have hundreds of economists at Treasury. And guess what? They're all concerned about borrowing money. That's their livelihood. They're not really concerned about making a product. So we've had these stimuluses and these spending bills. So we get through the 80s, with the Republican philosophy of tax cuts, and now we've got this. Let's spend money. We got to spend money. The way to solve this problem is spend money. So now we've got Obama last night was touting the new jobs bill. Well, first we had last year's jobs bill of $787 billion, and I don't mean to raise your ire here, but I went through that stimulus bill. Did anyone go through the stimulus bill? Did anyone read through last year's $787 billion stimulus bill? I read through it. It took me a weekend. My wife thought I was nuts because I went ballistic. She didn't like living with me. She thought I was like, what is wrong with you? And I went through it line by line by line by line, and it's like, what jobs are going to be created? Government jobs, education jobs, those will be saved. It really bothered me because there was not a single aspect, there was one aspect of it. It was small. It was this loan guarantee program for new production for green energy products and technologies. But that was $2 billion, $2.3 billion. It was immediately oversubscribed. There was nothing in that bill that would put millions of Americans back to work. Now, we've not created any net new jobs in the last 10 years, but our population grows every year by 4 million. We have the third largest population of any country in the world, behind China and India, and then it's us. And our population is growing. We're in an enviable position in the industrialized world because we have an actual market that's growing. We have 4 million people every year. After 4 years, that's 16 million. That's a New York City. Every 4 years, we're creating a New York City in this country every 4 years, just because of the population growth. That should be a naturally growing market for all the products that manufacturers do. We need jobs for tens of millions of